Today is Monday, the 27th of July, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. And today we're going to touch a theme the whole week that is a bit sensitive for many organizations and is international growth. And sometimes international growth is not just going cross borders. Let's put it as a growth beyond the boundaries where you're today. It could be another city, could be another state, another county, could be another country that is not far from yours. It doesn't mean that you going to another continent, but it's any growth that goes beyond the boundaries. So this is not the glossy version that you might say, the romanticized idea, we're going to grow internationally, not the map with arrows, how to do what, but not that we are going global line that sounds good in a board pack or as an idea for yourself as a founder or your executive team. This is a very, very practical version of the realities of studies and experiences that myself and people that I work with and companies I work with, we are putting together to understand what that means. The question is the business ready to travel? I mean, or is the only eager to expand? Because it's two different things. And there's a big difference between one and the other. So a founder, executive team, a board that may have strong demand at home, it may have loyal customers. It may have a known founder, a clear offer, few promising overseas conversations. Then someone says, well, we should take this into another market. That sounds exciting, so I give you that. But international expansion has a habit of exposing weak foundations. Right. So even if you think that you have a very, very strong narrative, revenues, teams, etc., when you're going beyond the circles that you have achieved so far, you start to understand where the weaknesses are. So that pretty much the growth becomes your most stress test, if you may, of your organization. So, for example, the sales stories may not travel, because actually they are very local. The founder, if you're a founder or your executive team or your board may still be too central to the business. So meaning that actually things are not going, you have to be there all the time. So the team may already have stretch because actually they are doing and performing very, very well, but at capacity at this point. And having now another stress to go beyond the boundaries probably is going to create more problems than benefits. Or the partner network. The model may look good on paper as you plan it, but is weak in practice. And reporting may become slower, obviously, because actually all these have to have a layer of systems, the governance, and risk and controls to make sure that actually that expansion is replicated, can be replicated in other markets, the success that you have to say. So the board may see more activity, or yourself as a founder, or your executive team, but activity doesn't say really what is going on, right? So if we look in the model that we have in front of us, scale sits on top, predictability sits on the right, and systems at the bottom, and the edge, your innovation and transformation on the left. And this, in the right in the center, you have the advisory board operating system that governs everything. So what I'm trying to do this week is use this model as an international readiness test. Today we're going to do a kind of an overview. On Tuesday we are looking international, or tomorrow international revenue and whether the economics transfer is very important. Wednesday we are going to look into cross-border systems. So whether the operating model repeats, and repetition is key here, because if you're going to look into funding, investors, line of credit, whatever is the case, you really need to demonstrate actually the revenues and the quality of those revenues in the new geographies are going to repeat. And Thursday, we're looking to international reinvention and whether the business keeps the coherence, is relevant to the new markets. And Friday, we're going to bring all together. Now, let's take a look at three problems with these international expansions. Problem number one is a false international scale. So more countries can make, or more counties, if you may, if you are in the UK, for example, more cantons, for example, in Switzerland, or different states in the US, uh, can make business look larger while the core becomes weaker. So actually, your headquarters, where you started everything, you might have a very good story, but actually, if you still to look into the business, you start to see they start to get weaker and weaker, because actually the effort to go outside your boundaries, they start to get more energy, more time, more resources that actually can support the core business. So more meetings, more partners, and more local promises do not prove the company has scaled. They might only prove the company had added more complexity. And complexity is very, very difficult to manage. You need to have a system and processes to make sure that that is as automated and repeatable as process, so people can be on board very quickly, understand what they have to do, how to do it very fast, and then go and execute. And obviously deliver. Problem number two is a weak home system trying to travel, right? So if you're a founder or an executive team or a board that still explained everything, solve any awkward client moment, or holds the key of relationships at home, the issue gets worse when you're going abroad. So distance do not fix founder dependency. It magnifies it. And when I say founder dependency, it can be one person, two people, the board or the executive team. When you have dependencies at home, those magnifies when you are going outside home. And problem number three is as partnerships being treated as shortcuts, right? And yes, many people say you grow through distribution, through your ecosystem, etc., etc. But a local partner may open a door, but that does not mean they protect your margins, your qualities, your customer feed, or controls. So a weak partnership can speed up entry while slowing down the value creation. And we spoke about value creation last week largely. So if you want to understand what is value creation from the advisory board point of view, check last week videos, because it's all very well explained. Now, in other words, let me bring this image to you. And this, you can imagine this situation like this. An international expansion is like adding extra carriages to a train. Yeah, if the coupling between these carriages, between sales, finances, operations, and strategies are weak, the train does not become stronger. It becomes harder to control and derail, and can derail. And believe me, we've seen some disasters in the past. Some were recoverable, others couldn't be recovered, and really hurt several companies. So, as a board advisor, what I would propose to consider is the following. And let me bring the image again. We're going to focus in brand, people, and partnership in the scaling model here. So start with the commercial acceleration. That's where you should start, but test it properly before even started. So in the advisory operation system here, the scale connects to brand, people, and partnerships I mentioned. So first, let's look into testing the brand portability. And this is a new word for you. Portability means that actually you can transfer something from one place to another, right? So it's portable. So the question will be, will the market understand the promise without the founder, you or your team, executive team, or your board of directors standing in the room? So what portability you have in the promise that you do from one place to another place? And the things actually you have to identify is, obviously, this is a common question. So, well, it's different market, different. We have to adapt. We have to localize, etc., etc. But there are certain things that must travel unchanged. What are those things? Because you cannot adapt the whole business or change the whole business to a new market. Because if you do that, literally you are completely changing your business model. So what travels unchanged? What proof you need? What is the pricing logic? What is the positioning? The way the business explains why it wins. So if every new market needs a fresh story, the brand is not traveling really, it's being rebuilt. So you're building a new brand in different places all the time. It's exhausting and probably a recipe for a bad outcome. The second thing that we're going to test is people portability, meaning that your teams, the capacity to onboard people, as I mentioned, execute and deliver as fast as possible. And with the things at the cores that are unchangeable, but with the adaptations that you need to put in different markets. So, for example, who owns local decisions? Who approves exceptions? Who sees delivery quality? Right. So you had to have kind of systems or operation procedures that oversees quality. Who spots commercial slippage? Who handles escalations if the founder or the board or the executive team is not available, right? So if one person must sit in the middle, the business is not ready to scale internationally or across border to the next state. It is ready to travel, but with a very tight supervision, which is exhausting. And actually, it worth the effort? I don't think so. But anyway, the third thing to consider or to test is the partnership quality. So your distribution system, your ecosystems, the people that are going to help you to distribute and resell your products. And here's the thing. Many people ask this question: can this partner get us into the market, right? So you're looking for market entry, which is a very valid question. But what about this other question? Will this partner improve the visibility, the margins, the compliance, the delivery discipline, and the customer quality, right? So it's not about just entering the market, it's improving what you already have. And this is a different way to select the partner or distributor or reseller. I think it's a much better question because actually you're looking into getting to the places where you really add value to your organization. And again, if you want to understand how value is created or preserved or increased in an organization, check my last week videos. And this is where the advisory board helps. It brings outside judgment into a moment where the excitement can outrun readiness. So a good advisory board can say, the market is attractive, but the operating model is not yet portable. And remember, portability is bringing one thing to another place with less changes as possible. The advisory board also can look into this and say, brand has trust at home, but not enough proof abroad. How we can do that? Or you might say the partner route is fast, but the control model is very thin or weak or is not there. So how we can change that? So these are useful pressures to have. Is not slowing down the enthusiasm and the business. In reality, is preserving the value, and something that we spoke last week. Right. So what do you gain working with me is three things: outcomes, differentiators, and risk reductions. In terms of outcomes, it's the international expansion that starts with readiness, not hopes. The business tests whether the brand, the people, and the partnership can travel before it commits more capital and more risk. The differentiator is a rotating international advisory board built around a milestone in front of the company, which is, for example, scaling, the commercial acceleration. You get market entry, brand transfer, partnership, governance, and leadership depth faster than hiring one executive. These executives exist. They're very expensive to hire. They take a very long period of time, but we can do it in 2 weeks or less with a lower overhead than a big consulting firm and not talent locked in. And we can swap members as the projects evolve. This is very, very flexible. And the risk reduction is a false international scales. You don't want this to be a kind of a cardboard board, right? The business avoids adding countries, partners, or promises before the core is ready to hold. You must have a headquarters that can hold the international expansion. Now, one action you can take today, and it's doable in 30 minutes or less, and let's use our usual visual aid of the scorecard. Before the next board meeting, looking into international expansion, put this in a one page, kind of a scorecard, and use three columns: the brand, the people, and the partnerships. So each mark red, amber, and green. But here's the trick: add one sentence of evidence under each one. If the evidence is thin or is not strong enough or is start to become difficult to explain, the expansion story is not ready. So there you have spotted which are the gaps, the blind sides, the weaknesses in their plan, so you can work towards something that is very specific, very real, and actually, guess what? Also, you have there a kill switch. Many companies don't have a kill switch, so you can understand if this is not adding or putting together all the required conditions to be a success. You can say we can stop here, and we are not going to invest more in something that actually is not going to produce the outcome that we're looking for, particularly the business outcome in terms of revenues and profits. So let's pause here today and reconvene tomorrow, because tomorrow we move from in the model from scale to predictability. We will look at international revenue and ask whether the economics really transfer, right? So, or whether the margin illusion is hidden inside the growth story. So we think that we are making a margin, but actually is not. Now, if you are a leader, a founder, a non-executive director, a board member, a C-suite member with a company of 50 employees or more than 100 100 million, 10 million in revenue, and you want an international advisory board to pressure test whether your business can travel internationally or not, let's have a 30-minute chat so I can understand where you are today, where you want to go, and which market entry risk need a sharper challenge. Have a great day, and we'll talk tomorrow. Thank you, and bye.